I would almost turn the thing inside out and upside down.
Mm-hmm.
Having done the little bit of, paltry work that I did on soap opera, and believe me, I think that soap opera was a potential vehicle for great entertainment. And, my first book is about that.
Mm-hmm.
It has completely collapsed for reasons we don't need to talk about. But just having been in that environment, I was stunned that David Chase, after 30 years of wearing the harness, could spread his wings and fly. So many people that I met, I was a college professor while I was working, so I never identified myself, within the boundaries of what my colleagues were, kind of straitjacketed by. That was who they were. They were working in television. I was visiting, which maybe is, I can see somebody wanting to criticize me for, peeking my head in and then being able to open the door and say, okay, you all stay where you are. I'm free. I kind of get that.
Yeah.
But at the same time, I met so many people who told me that after doing particularly soap opera writing, but formula, sitcom and the rest of it, writing, they couldn't any longer tell their own stories. And the fact that he could is the wonder to me. So do I think that, I personally think that people need to go through the discipline, and we can call it a discipline, of formulaic writing? The answer is a resounding no.
That's fascinating.
In fact, I think it can be extremely hazardous to the health of a creative person. I left NYU, where I was teaching screenwriting, because I saw that it was the department policy to enforce what I would call formula writing on the kids, and saying, well, once you know this, then you can be free to break the rules. That's not what I saw. What I saw were brilliant students with lots of talent whose wings were clipped, and I knew they'd never fly again.
Very interesting.
I just couldn't do it. I couldn't do it. Sometimes I did things that skirted the rules, but what they wanted me to do there. But I realized that eventually somebody would come over to me and say, "You're not doing what we want you to do. Either you do it or you leave." So I left. I mean, nobody said it to me, but I was sure somebody would someday if I didn't leave.
Well, that also, there's really a couple or a few different aspects to this, I think, because there's the one which I think you're sort of addressing, which is working outside of the formula altogether, not even sort of going through that path to get to, not going through the marketplace to reach the palace, I guess you could say.
Wow.
And, right, there we go.
You speak my language.
Well, I read your books. And there's also another aspect of, I think there are, and this is something we'll get into more with Lynch and Cross, which is where we're going to go with this next. There are sort of, I think, by necessity sometimes, depending on what type of, if you're creating like Stan Brakhage or Maya Deren on television, then you probably needn't concern yourself at all with these things. But if you are sort of working within story tradition, sometimes there are situations you'll encounter where, a formula might help you out of a jam or something, like it judiciously used, let's say. But it also reminds me of something Pauline Kael wrote about, I think, La Ventura, where she said, Michelangelo Antonioni is horrible at staging fight scenes, but he's a great director. And she actually kind of turned on him a little after that, but at this time she still liked him. And she was saying, he doesn't. She used that as an example that there's this idea. She was actually using it, ironically, I guess, as a cudgel against some of the auteurist critics like an Andrew Sarris and others who would say that these directors who come up sort of through the Hollywood sausage machine, they need to sort of have that baseline competence as a workman-like director to flower into great artists. And she was saying, well, look at this. This is a lousy fight scene he staged in this movie. He clearly has no competence doing like one of the most basic functions of like a genre film, but it doesn't really matter because that's not what L'Avventura is about. That's not what makes it interesting. And that example has always stuck with me as a counterpoint because I think I've kind of gone back and forth in my thinking at times of, well,
right.
Is it better to have that discipline or to go outside of it and so forth? And that sort of humorous observation always kind of came to mind, that even if the formula, you know, can help you inside, it's not like you don't necessarily have to do A before you do B.
So many things come to mind when you bring up the question of not being able to stage a fight, you know, or staging a terrible fight. I don't know if you've ever seen like the old cowboy movies, like from
sure, yeah,
31. Those fight scenes are like, oh, this is different, you know, and your first impulse is to say, what a crappy fight scene. But the more you look at it, the more you realize that those old fight scenes, before they evolved, shall we say, a formula for fight scenes, they're much more realistic. They're much more the way people really pound away at each other. Fight scenes, as we understand them, are choreography.
Yes,
and
that's a great point.
We have a kind of an aesthetic issue here, you know, sort of. I have nothing against choreography, and the choreography of the Hong Kong fight scenes is delicious. I mean, it's so amazing, especially I'm thinking of a director, Johnny To. I don't know if you know him.
I know the name, but I'm not sure if I've seen any of the films.
Oh, he's deliriously fabulous. And there's a movie called The Mission, and the fight scenes there are transcendent. I mean, they're right on the same aesthetic level as ballet. They're just brilliant, you know. But what if that's not what you want to do? I'm not saying, L'Avventura is no way about a fight scene, but still, what L'Avventura is about is the inconclusiveness of the world. It fits right into the modernist, you know, storyteller. And maybe you want a fight scene that's part of that aesthetic. Do you know what I'm saying? So
yes, and it can even be a natural. It doesn't even have to be sort of like a calculation. It can be sort of a natural arising of the same instinct, manifesting itself in that situation.
So maybe we don't want to say they're terrible fight scenes. Maybe we want to say they give us a different perspective on fighting.